What is good, y'all? Welcome to Let's Cap. My name is Ronald, also known as Youcapper from Sportsmemo.com at Youcapper Sports on Twitter. This is one of those episodes where we get to know one of the top cappers in this space. Some of the people that I look up to, as far as how they've grown in sports betting Twitter, gambling Twitter. Matt DeadPresPicks. Thanks for joining me today, man. I know it's been something that we've been talking about for a while. Finally got it going. Man, I don't know how long it's been, but dude, you have like I think like over 120,000 followers right now.
Yeah.
I think I followed you when you had like I don't even know, dude. Like
1,000 or 2,000? Yeah, it was
yeah,
early.
maybe 1,000 or 2,000, bro. You
Yeah.
have grown tremendously in this space. One of the biggest things that I want to do with you today really is kind of talk about how you've grown so quickly, how you become a successful handicapper. Like when did you start? What is your style? Some advice, obviously, for people who want to get into this space. We were talking briefly right before the show about how so many people have come into gambling Twitter, sports betting Twitter, and really are starting from scratch and don't know where to start, don't know who to follow, and the process to get to where you specifically are in your status,
Right.
working with a top company like Odds Checkers, having this many followers, it's huge. But yeah, definitely blessed to have you on the show. One thing I also want to talk about is yesterday's Super Bowl. Man, this $10 to 10K ladder.
Yes.
We've seen this all over the place for a while now, and I haven't seen anyone get to that 10th day.
Close, man.
You did. The timing was crazy because it was a Super Bowl.
Right.
I'm gonna talk about the process here, as far as like when you started, all the plays that you went through. Like, how did
Yeah.
you determine what plays you wanted to get to, and how did you feel yesterday during the Super Bowl, like before and after?
Right. Right. Now, well, first, thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, I know we've been trying to get together for a little while. So do watch the show. You do great work with it. But I'm excited to hop on. As far as a ladder challenge, man, I mean it was a good time. It was actually a guy who I now formerly work with, but did my morning show with, John Heislop, and he one day we were just on the show, and he was like, "Yo, have you seen the challenge going around on Twitter?" And I was like, I didn't even know what it was
Yeah.
at the time. And he's like, we should start doing it for the show. So that was kind of how the idea came, to tell you the truth. And then we caught fire kind of early on with a few bets. I mean, I always say like the toughest part of it's the beginning, right? To kind of get those first 2 or 3 days, and then once you get through that, then you start moving a little momentum. So it was tough early on, but we were able to get some wins, string together some wins, and then just continuing. Yeah, the response was great because, as you mentioned with the followers, the challenge itself probably brought in 10,000 followers, right? Like right away.
Amazing.
So it brought
Yeah.
a lot of traffic, a lot of people, just wanting to kind of keep up with it. Obviously, some people got in late, so not everyone, was in it.
Yeah,
They got
yeah, yeah.
more following for entertainment, but no, it was cool. I mean, the people have been super cool about it who followed. Obviously, it sucks that it went down last night, especially I'm an Eagles fan too. So it was tough because you had the loss there and the Eagles lost. But at the end of the day, it was a $10 challenge, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
number looked bigger because it was the bet, but it started with $10. I mean, it was fun. A lot of really good memories through it. A lot of cool wins and stuff that'll be impactful moving forward. But yeah, gonna try it again later on. We're gonna kick one up tomorrow, and
Awesome.
thinking of some other cool challenges too along the way, not just this one.
Yeah, that is dope. Yeah, like I said, man, it's crazy to think that you've gone all the way to that end. Not a lot of people even got to that part. That's
Right.
I seen people like end like on the first, second, and third like many times. So
Yeah.
yeah, respect to you guys, you and Hassa for getting that far. I mean, one thing that I do want to talk about too, and like I said, man, I've been following you since you had like 1,000, 2,000 member followers here. You know, Obviously, I think you started on Twitter like 2 years ago. Did you start betting 2 years ago, or have you been doing that for a while?
Yeah, I mean, I probably started betting before I should have, right? Like before it was allowed. But I did. I guess I seriously started to when I was in college. So I'm 24 now, but I guess when I was 18, 19 years old, freshman, and that was when I actually was having some success with it. Like when I first started betting, I was losing every day, right? Doing the parlays, doing kind of the dumb bets that
Yeah,
you do when you first start gambling. But yeah, once I noticed that I was actually making some profit with it, decided to start this up with my buddy. And, it just kind of, it very slowly moved, right? Like the getting to this point obviously this is our 4th year on Twitter. So it was a slow grind. Like the first year or so, you've been through it too with growing your page. It doesn't happen overnight, right? But I mean, I think, once you realize that you actually can win and make people money, you push yourself a little harder. So I think that was really when I got into it. But once I saw, hey, I can actually win a little bit. Let's push this. Let's do this. That's when I really wanted to get in and try to grow the Twitter.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know, man. You've been successful like at a lot of sports. You do this thing, the night owl thing. I think it's night owl, but yeah, you bet on sports. That I was like, what the hell are you looking at here? Like overnight international stuff. Like, can you kind of talk about your capping style? How do you get to the point where you can successfully cap multiple sports, even some that are not really well known?
Yeah, no, for sure. For me, a lot of it with major sports like football, baseball, basketball, hockey, and then at the college levels too, that's more of like eye test betting. So a lot of people obviously use systems and stuff like that. I honestly am more of like a feel better. I have some tendencies where if it's a super public play and the line doesn't move, I go against it, like stuff like that. But I try not to be too one-sided. And what I mean is like some people just want to fade the public.
Yeah.
But you got to remember the public still wins 46% of the time you're going to lose a lot of those bets. So I mean, if you do it with legitimately every bet, yeah, maybe you can scrape some profit. But I mean, I look at like college basketball this weekend as an example, and it was very the obvious plays were winning, right? And typically that's not going to happen, but sometimes there's plays out there where you kind of just gotta trust the better team is going to win, and then there's times where you got to be sharp and fade aside. That might look easy. So I think being like a blend of the two is kind of how I look at it. I don't want to be too one-sided either way. I try to use as many different strategies, and I also think experience. I mean, I'm sure you could attest to this too. The more you gamble, the more you pick up on like, oh wait, this doesn't make sense, or this doesn't make sense. So you kind of catch yourself. There's even teams, I'm sure you know what I mean, that even if they're a good against the spread team or a good team straight up, you just can't win on them, right? So sometimes you gotta kind of assess that and move yourself off of that. So yeah, I think as time moves on, you just become more experienced. It's like anything else, right? The more you do it, the better you get at it. So and then as far as international sports go, it's kind of funny because that was when during COVID, right, where there was nothing to bet on. So I kind of pivoted at that point because I mean no one was doing anything, right, during the pandemic, and I was like, you know what, I might as well take a chance doing these leagues, because if I do them and win, I'm probably going to grow because nobody's betting anything else, right? Like who else is putting out bets right now?
Yeah.
What I did for those leagues, man, you would try to watch them and kind of look at statistics, but a lot of it was kind of just like, again, feel like wait, this league goes under a lot, and they were such small markets that in college basketball, college football, NBA, you'll see a line move a point or two. These were lines that like would legitimately move 20 points on totals. So
that's wild. Yeah.
You could smoke it if you got into the market early. Like if you took an under 210, it would close sometimes at 190. And you would know before the game.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Nobody's betting the league. And now they're like, wait, where are these people coming? Where is this money coming from? So that's small leagues. But now, I still do like the KBO, the Korean Baseball League. I still have a lot of interest in that just because during COVID, it was on ESPN, right? Like it was, so I actually kind of got into it, and it's like a league that now I want to keep up with. The NBL, the Australian Basketball League, they're high quality. I mean, you see a lot of ex-NBA players in those leagues. So, I mean, I'm a sports junkie, so I'll watch anything. I really don't care. I'm into every league. So, but yeah, that's kind of how I got there with those lunch money plays and the night out plays.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, talking about your handicapping style again, you said it's like gut feel and also just experience. So when I think of it as far as gut feel and experience, using that, it's really just making sure that your mind is right in that current moment. Because if you're not using too much of the analytics and statistics and stuff like that, you really need to have a clear mind. And with you having so many followers, there's obviously going to be trolls, right? And you also bet on so many sports that there's going to be hot streaks and cold streaks. Like, what do you do to kind of keep your mind right in the sports bet? I think in sports betting, too many people talk about wins, losses, but they
Yeah.
don't actually talk about like the fact that um you need to be on point every single
Yeah.
day. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Especially with your mind. Like, what do you do to kind of keep you straight in these
Yeah.
situations?
No, well, it's funny you bring that up because I think when I first started, I did let that stuff kind of bother me. And it would almost be one of those things where if you had a losing day, like personally, I would get, real down and harder
Yeah.
on myself, right? I mean, I'm sure you've been through that. Like, because what people don't realize is when you're a capper or, a content creator, you're one, losing your own bets, right? And then number two, there's a lot of people out there relying on you. Like you have thousands and thousands of people. So your natural human reaction is you don't want to let people down, right? Especially, most of these people, good people, they're putting their time in, their effort in for you. But you got to kind of
Mhm.
compartmentalize, I think, and realize that. So yeah, for me, I mean, I went through a stage of really struggling with that. I'd say the past year and a half, what I do every day now, exercising, is really key for me, just because it kind of takes me away from the actual, sports betting. It's funny. There's a lot of nights where, just watching stuff that isn't sports. Like I don't even necessarily watch all my games because, I mean, you have a normal life too. Again, people don't necessarily get that when you're a capper. You have family, you have friends, you have other stuff that you want to do, as much as we love sports. But I think
Yeah.
finding kind of, stuff that takes your mind off of it is 100% key, because the mental health side of gambling, I think, is the most significant, because you've seen too, just cappers sometimes they'll lose and then they'll kind of lose it right on Twitter. Like
Yeah.
they'll go at you can't be a loose cannon like that. I mean, last night, my team lost. I had 50 people in my comments, right, making fun of the Eagles, making fun of the pick. You
Yeah.
gotta just take a breath, right, and be like, all right, it is what it is. It's just people talking on Twitter. You don't take it personally. I think that's key too, because if someone's
Yeah.
trolling you, someone's trolling someone else, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they're just coming after. It's not a personal thing. It's Twitter. It's not real life. No one would
Yeah.
see this stuff if they were, with you. It's the fact that they can through social media. But yeah, I definitely think if you want to get into the space, you have to, like you were saying, you have to have a clear mind every day and not let the day before affect you, good or bad, right?
Yeah, yeah. A couple more questions before we dive into some of the some plays today.
Yeah.
So obviously, like I mentioned, you have like over 120K followers right now. You're a lead analyst over at Odds Checker.
Mhm.
A lot of people in this space like have come out, as handicappers within the past year, want to be in the position that you're in. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? That's kind of like their goal here.
Right.
What do you think as far as like advice? What kind of advice do you want to give the people that are starting in the space, that kind of be that want to be in the spot that you're in?
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. First, definitely humbled by that, because it's cool same thing with you too. Your space, what you're doing with your show. A lot of people wanting to get there, but I think first is like the confidence to do it, right? Because taking that chance in our space, it's different, right? It's not like a normal job sometimes where there's like that known stability. Like if you're a teacher and it doesn't work out, you can get a job somewhere else. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
if you're in business, there's other companies. Being a content creator is a lot of betting on yourself, right? It's making, people wanting to watch your content, because at the end of the day, nobody owes me to watch anything, But I think what it is, if you want to get into it, definitely having the confidence and the ability to create content is key. But I think there's a lot of people, I'm sure you can attest to this too. It's just like being a good person and like not lying about your stats, not making up, numbers on the fly, having some kind of documentation for what you do,
yeah,
because then you're going to earn the trust of, I always say the most important thing in this space is having, the respect of your peers, right? Like people who work with or other companies, and then obviously your followers, because like we just talked about, 99% of the followers, they follow you because they want to follow you. And then that 1% follow you because they want to troll you, right? So,
yeah,
but any followers are good. So yeah, I think that's key, man. I think definitely working, and this is like working hard, because I mean, you remember when your page probably had 10 followers, right? And you were like, I don't know if this could work.
yeah,
Then getting to the point where I think you like see, all right, it might work, and then setting goals. Like what I used to do is I would set a goal every day to reach, 1,500 followers, 1,600 followers, and I would try to, use ways to do that. I think like collabing with people is great. just because like this, right? We kind of overlap working with other people, because then you get in front of audiences. The people who are watching your show might have never seen me before. People who watch my show might have never seen you before. So building relationships with other cappers, I think, is like one of the main reasons why my page grew so much, because I had a lot of people, help me out, throw retweets, and follow and stuff like that. So I think that's key. But I mean, I think it's really believing in yourself. And if you want it that bad and you're good at it, I think you can make it. You know what I mean? I think eventually you'll get noticed. But like you mentioned at the top of this, the space has become so condensed so quick. Like there was not this many cappers 2 or 3 years, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
There's people popping up out of nowhere now. And I'm like, man, like I didn't see this guy's Twitter last week, and now he has 50,000 followers. Like people grow quickly because gambling is becoming legal in so many more states. So it's just more people want to get into it, which is great for us, but it makes the space a little more competitive. But I mean that, and then lastly, I would just say like focusing on yourself, right? Don't compare to other people. Just if you grow your brand, 1% better every day, that's cool. I mean, there's people might look at my account and say my account's huge, but there's people 10 times bigger than me, right? There's going to always be someone bigger than you. And that's good, because that motivates you to kind of go after that person and try to get to that point. But yeah, I think there's a lot of ways to do it, man. And I just think patience is definitely the biggest thing, and also with being, honest, transparent, and just being like a good dude, right? Just being normal and having fun with it.
Yeah, and that's the thing too about my following. Obviously, I don't have as many followers as you do or other people in this space, but I think that the biggest thing is really just being true to yourself.
Exactly.
Right? Because the more fake you are on Twitter, the more your followers become sort of like not the right people that you want to be following you. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that because you're true to yourself, you are who you are, you'll get the right people surrounding you. And that's really important, because that's important to keeping your head right. In my opinion. All right. Well, one more thing too. We talked about, some advice for people to kind of be like, be in a situation that you're in, having a lot of followers, being a lead analyst at a top company and things like that. But what about advice to new bettors? Like, what do you want? When you first started, you talked about losing in the beginning, right? Doing parlays, doing all these things. Advice to new bettors to not lose off the bat. What can we learn from ourselves, our experience?
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to know what you're betting on, because kind of when I was talking about the parlays I would do, I remember when I first started betting, and I'll never forget this. I put in a parlay and I bet the spreads of the football games, but I thought that meant the teams just had to win. So I remember it was like Alabama, right? But they're minus 42.5. And I remember I thought the bet won, and I looked and I was like, man, I just won a lot of money because it was a parlay. And obviously didn't, because it had to cover the spread. So I think, as silly as that might sound to people who bet every day, obviously know what you're betting, know what a spread is, know what a money line is, know what an over-under is. And then I think like when you get more advanced, bankroll managing is so key, because I do mostly, I don't know how your unit system is. My unit system is a half unit, and then my max is a 2 unit, but I very rarely even go to 2 units. You know what I mean? I like to be at a half unit or a unit, just because I think a lot of people don't have the discipline to follow, higher systems, right? Because I mean, 1% of your bankroll is a unit. Everyone knows the rule, but not a lot of people get that. And if you're first starting, it's okay to bet, $5 or $10 a game. Who cares? Like, it's an entertainment thing after all. The better you get at it, I think, or if you follow someone like myself or like you, Ronald, like if you follow someone that is going to win you money and you have trust in them and you want to go a little bit bigger, it's kind of like investing, right? Like, it's like, all right, I know the money's eventually going to get there. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. But the issue with a lot of people in gambling is the lack of patience. They want that instant gratification, like you and I did, right? It's a grind, man. I mean, every day it's, can I win a unit? And you're happy. Like there's gonna be days.
That's the difference to me between professional cappers and not, because you said 1% per unit. The thing is, people will hear 1% and start to do, what was that called? The unit shaming.
Yes.
But if you think about it, what is your actual bankroll? They automatically think 1% is like $10. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
What is your bankroll? It's
It
1%
depends on
of your
you.
bankroll.
Yeah, it depends on the person. So no,
Yeah.
I think that's super key because I think a lot of people don't get that. They want, and that's again kind of going back to our original point of people who kind of lie about statistics and they'll put, I just won 55 units in one day. No, like you might maybe like with your unit system, but like if you make 55 units in a year, like that's a hell of a year. So I mean, just if you think about it psychologically and like really break it down, if you win like a half unit every day, you're going to end your year over 150 units, and that's something that like again a lot of people don't get. But then it goes the other way too. It's minimizing losses, and again, you could attest to this. Like if you have an awful day, if you have a bad day and you only lose 2 or 3 units, that's fine. Like I can get that back tomorrow or the next day. So, but then if you lose and you lose, 10 or 20 units, that's when people start to chase and people start to, double down on stuff. So yeah, it's about that discipline of understanding like gambling. And like I said, at first ease into it, but then once you're into it and you have a bankroll, like I said, look at it like investing into something. There's going to be the ups, there's going to be the downs, but stick to it, stick to your process of money. And find someone either like myself or yourself who they trust, in tailing every day, or if you feel you're good enough, and you don't need a capper, like that's fine. Like that, you don't have to or listen to all our picks, right? Like you can make your own and be effective in that role too. But I think that's definitely the biggest thing is bankroll management and discipline for a new gambler.
Love it, man. I could talk on and on with you about this because it's so important to pass on to viewers, people who are getting into the gambling space, all the things, not just the picks. Because picks is one thing, getting it right. Obviously, you want to get it right, but there's a lot of preparation involved in making sure that your mind is right to get into the space where you can win consistently, and you've done that. You proved it. And so really glad to have you on here. With that said, man, let's drop one of the plays. It's funny because it's one of the plays that I like to. I asked you right before the show, like, what do you want to drop for the viewers? You're like, Lakers money line or whatever. I got a correlated play, so let's actually get into it. For the people that haven't watched Let's Cap before, I know you. I think you shared the page, so there might be some people who've never seen Let's Cap before. We're a little bit of a different. Obviously, today's a little bit different because I'm sort of interviewing Matt here, but for the most part, we come in, we go through the slate of the day. Right now, obviously, it's NBA is a major part of it. But we end up, what I do is I have guests come on with me. We talk about these games. We actually break it down to a level where we share the screen. We share the resources that we use to kind of break down the game. And so that's what I'll be doing today, kind of showing you guys here. So what I do is I'll share my screen here. And first, let's go with you, Matt, and talk about why you like the Lakers money line here. And I'll just start to share my screen a little bit as you go.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, so I grabbed this at plus money this morning, Ronald. I don't know if it's still at plus money or if the line has flipped at all, because the thing is, I think this will close with Los Angeles as a slight favorite. You know how the Lakers work as an NBA guy. Last minute, LeBron or AD, like, are they playing, not playing? I'm banking on them playing tonight because LeBron missed the last 2 games, so I think he'll be back for this one tonight. And Davis has been a little more consistent, playing since he's returned. I like this new look team, honestly, for the Lakers. I mean, I think what it gives them is the ability to space the floor. And now you have shooters, right? Outside. D'Angelo Russell, you could shoot, right? He's a much better shooter. It's also about the upgrades, right? You subtract Pat Bev and Russell Westbrook, who cannot shoot the basketball at all, and you add you add Malik Beasley. I think Vanderbilt's going to be a good pickup for them. So I really liked what they did at the deadline. LeBron James is playing like a man possessed all year. Anthony Davis is having a career kind of year. And this Portland defense has been god-awful as of late. And since Nurkic has been out, they have 0 rim protection. They dumped Eubanks, right, in the trade to Toronto.
Yep.
So, I mean, they're depleted when it comes to the paint. I don't even know who is starting at center tonight for them. I don't know if you
I'm not too sure. Maybe Collins.
That's what I was thinking, right? Yeah. But he's not known for his defense. Like, Anthony Davis should score 35 points in this game. LeBron's going to be able to penetrate with ease. And the Lakers, to me, defensively, they've looked more lively as of late. We know how great of a defender AD is, protecting that rim. I like this Lakers team, Ronald. I think they start to string together a little bit of a run, to be honest. coming up. So
I do too. I think the moves that they made during this deadline is really going to give them some confidence and momentum to
100%.
close out the season and get into the playoffs. I don't know whether it's going to be play-ins by way of play-ins or if they end up being in the top 6 or whatnot, but
Yeah.
I do believe that they got some momentum on their side. Some things that you touched on, really, the Blazers defense lately. What I did, I went to NBA.com here, looked at their advanced stats. Last 10 games, dead last in defensive rating, 126.7. One thing that I do, some of the viewers hopefully know SDQL is something that I mess around with a lot. But if we look at the Lakers here, one thing that I noticed was there was a flip sometime after the Christmas Day game. They've really been playing some solid defense since then. So one thing that I'm gonna show you here is the Lakers after Christmas. So I'm gonna take the date here, greater than 25. And what I did was specifically look at these higher totals, right? Because we see a high total today, 238. That means they're playing either a fast-paced team or a team that doesn't play solid defense, right? So what I see here, since Christmas Day, totals at 235 or greater, or sorry, total greater than 235. They're 11-4 straight up, 10-4-1 against the spread. This number here towards the under, obviously they're not going over the totals, but it's due to their defense for the most part. Because you're seeing here, this DPS and DPA, this is delta points scored, right? And this is delta points allowed. Delta points allowed means how many points did they allow their opponent to go over or under their team total. And then the delta points scored is how many points did they go over or under their team total, right? So the delta points allowed, they've only allowed 3 of those teams to go over their team total. That's what I mean about them playing really strong defense lately. Right. This includes like an OT game here. And then for the most part, 121.9 is the total average in those games. And their team total today is 118.5. If you look at it from another angle here, I'm going to add to the fact that they're on the road. How have they been playing the same situation, but we just include that they're on the road? They're 7-1 straight up, 6-1-1 against the spread here. And again, above the team total, 118.5. So that's the way that I was going with the team total over. But when you mentioned the Lakers money line, it made so much sense because a lot of things align with it, right? They're averaging 120.9 points per game. If we look at the Blazers side and how much they struggle on the defense, so I'm gonna bring up the Trailblazers. Well, they put it as Trailblazers here, and we say that they're in a conference game, and they're the favorite, because they are still a favorite. It has come down to 1. Okay, I'm not 100% sure if they'll close as favorites because I think LeBron's status is still questionable.
Yeah, I don't think he's officially in.
So if he's officially in,
that'll move it. Right.
If he's officially in, it might actually flip to them being the favorites.
Yeah.
But for the most part, so if we look at them as conference favorites, they're 11-8 straight up, 10-9 against the spread, 14-5 to the over. So a lot of things from a record perspective doesn't look like it backs the situation, right? But if we go into it deeper and say that the opponent, if the game is at home favorite, if we look at their home splits with the Blazers, their offense is really good at home offensively. I think they average like 10 more points at home than they do on the road, but they also give a lot more points up at home than they do on the road. So if I look at it from this perspective, they're the home favorite and they're in a conference situation. They're 12-1 to the over, allowing a 120.1 per game, again, over that team total. I know from a record perspective, it does seem like they're winning and covering in this situation, but stats and trends, they only go so far, right? You got to put it all together. It's like a recipe, right? You want to think about it from all angles. But for the most part, again, it's pointing towards that team total over. And then one more thing to look at here. A lot of people talk about the revenge angle, right? In-season revenge when a team plays another team that they just lost to. So we can actually look that up in SDQL. So this means that it's an in-season revenge game. They lost to the team. The Lakers have beat the Blazers twice in a row so far. This is how the Blazers do in revenge angle situations: 5-10 straight up, 5-10 against the spread. So they're not doing really well in this spot specifically. They're averaging 113.4. allowing 118.9. So again, sort of like right above the team total average. But this goes to show that this, that money line on the Lakers side is pretty good.
Yeah.
Is a pretty good look, right? One more thing to add, if we say that the game is at home, just looking at the home road splits, 2-5 straight up, 2-5 ATS. But look at that split here as far as how much they're allowing. 124.1 again over the team total right now. And if we look at the DPA, total points allowed for the Blazers, they allowed their opponent to go over their team total in all 7 games here. So that's the way that I would look. I definitely agree with you as far as the Lakers money line. I think that could happen, but I place my bet on the team total over. I know you talked about your process earlier about how it's gut feel. It's crazy that to think that we can align together, but not have the same capping style. And that's the way that I really want to teach people is I do my thing my way, you do your thing your way. Some handicappers do it other ways. What I always say is there's a lot of ways to win, but not many ways to lose. So if you avoid those ways to lose, you become a more successful handicapper. And those ways to lose are things that you kind of touched on earlier as far as your advice, right? You can't have bad money management. You can't be in a bad headspace. You know what I mean? That's going to put you in a bad position. So all in all, I mean, we aligned obviously, but like I said, the key point there was we don't look at the games the same way, but we both can be successful. So one thing that I see on Twitter, gambling Twitter a lot, is the trolls talking about I'm better than you. Yeah, I'll win more games than you and stuff like that. Man, I hate the fact that people have to think that their way is the only way.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
There's so many ways to win.
100%. Exactly. So that's why I like talking to people like you who look at the games in different ways. And if we can align, it's all the better too.
Oh, good, right?
It gives me way more confidence.
We're cheering together.
Yeah, exactly. And even if we were on the opposite side, the one thing that I like to tell people is that as professional handicappers, we can always be on opposite sides.
Yeah.
But we know together long term that we will be successful. There's always going to be times when we disagree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes. I can agree more.
Exactly. Anything else to add to that game, or was there any other games that you kind of looked at today? Was like, I'm leaning in that direction, but maybe I need some push to get there.
The one was the Knicks Nets. I want to check to see if that line's still where it is. I think the Knicks were only -2 or 2.5.
Yeah, it looks like some at the Wagertalk odds screen. Opened at 3.5. It's down to 2.5 here. Some places do have it at 2.
And the thing is, I mean, NBA injury reports. I don't see anyone significant out for the Knicks. The Nets have won both meetings this year, and they've won both somewhat handily. I mean, the last game they won by 7. Prior to that, they almost beat them by 30. I think this is a good spot for the Knicks. I mean, I know this new look Nets team. Obviously, you subtracted Kevin Durant, you subtracted Kyrie Irving, but they did bring in a lot of high quality players. I mean, you brought in Bridges, who I love. Cam Johnson, obviously, he could shoot the hell out of it. And Dinwiddie, he's a bucket getter, right? So I thought they did a decent job, like adding pieces. They're not a team that, in my opinion, at least, I don't think they're a contender at this point. But they're going to be a playoff team, right? I mean, they're 9 games over 500, kind of bearing a hard drop off. The Knicks, meanwhile, though, they've been pretty good, overall this year. But the funny thing with the Knicks is I guess I could stat check myself, but I think they're either under 500 or 500 at home. So they've.
I can look at that. So at home, the Knicks are 15-15 straight up.
So they've been like a 500 team. They've struggled. They've actually played their best basketball away from home. So I don't know if you're getting that line difference for them being at home. Like I don't think it's being added in as if you would for like I'm a Sixers fan. They play much better at home.
Yeah.
As an example. So. I don't know. I mean, they've been a better road team. Brooklyn's been really good away from home too. So the spot itself almost looks like the Nets. The line, though, kind of looks like the Nets, but my gut's saying the Knicks. I might. That's why I'm probably going to stay off the game. But I mean, I would think the Knicks third time around maybe get it done, but it'll be
because you mentioned so. the Nets have won both games so far this season.
Right.
Obviously, those were with KD.
Yeah,
I think KD was actually hurt. I think KD was hurt the second
the
game.
second
Actually,
game, I don't think
yeah,
KD played because it was in January, I believe. So I
yeah, late
there's
January. Yeah, KD
probably
was out. Kyrie was there. Um, You would think so. I the fact that you brought up, KD's out, right? Kyrie is out. They did make a lot of changes to this roster,
yeah,
but I think from a cumulative aspect, I think they, like you said, they did a really good job replacing what they gave up, and then they
100%.
picked up a whole bunch of picks as well. So from
Yeah,
a business perspective, they made out pretty well because I feel like they knew something was off, and they knew, even though they did go on that like 18-2 win streak from like November to like early January.
yeah,
This later losing streak when KD got hurt kind of put them in position to be like, all right, we're just gonna sell.
yeah,
We need to figure this out.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
for sure.
I do like the fact that to me this one's hard to play as well. I think it might be a game where we look at props though, because they were more focused on the defensive side of the ball
Yeah.
for the main part, right? Especially towards after they had the coaching change.
Hmm.
But it seems like a lot of the guys that they brought in, minus DFS, who's a really great defender, they brought in a lot of bucket getters, and they had Cam Thomas, who really showed that they could play some. He could put up points in bunches as
Yeah.
well. Knicks, let's look at all right. So if we look at Knicks home, right, they're
Yeah.
17-13 to the over. If we put them at the home favorite situation, there you go. So 13-7 to the over. They're averaging 118 points per game.
Hmm.
The total today is 220.
It's
Um,
somewhat
I'm
low.
I'm wondering if they're expecting like a slower paced game here,
Uh-huh.
or it's tough. So hey, look at this though. All right, so we look at their last, what is this, 7 games? The
7
Knicks
games.
have allowed their opponents to go over their team total in all of them.
Wow.
So their defense is struggling right now.
Yeah. Well, it's new pieces too, right? I mean, sometimes that communicational side of it,
Uh-huh.
it's different, right? I mean, you bring it in. Although a couple of them played together, and obviously some are still on the team. I think sometimes that's tough. I think it's just as tough offensively. It'll take some time to connect and get in rhythm. It's the same thing at
Yeah.
the defensive end. You kind of learn as you go, but
I
yeah, I
think
think it's
it
interesting.
could be it could be also because Mitchell Robinson's been out, right? I think
Mhm.
one thing that's dope about the Knicks is they brought in a Hart, and he might be that guy, that physical
It's a good
defender.
build. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He's
that
a
physical
hard-nosed
defender.
guard.
He's like that glue guy. No matter where he goes, he'll fit
Yeah.
in just because of his style of play.
100%. I agree with that. Yeah, I thought that was a strong pickup. That's a good point for the Knicks as well. You
Yes,
need, you need
geez,
guys
like
like that. Yeah.
for some reason it's pointing me towards the over right now. Because if I
Mhm.
look at the Nets minus the last game against the Sixers, they've been going over their team total in a whole bunch of games. They've been
Yeah.
covering at a high rate. I don't know if they covered today in a road dog situation against the Knicks, because a lot of these games were at home.
Mhm.
But to me, it seems like an over game now. The more I look at
The
it,
numbers say so, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely at 220.5. Well, what did it open up at? Knicks, it's actually come down 224.5 down to 220.
Wow,
I feel like it's going in the wrong direction.
that's a pretty big drop. Yeah.
I need to figure that out. Why is it going down?
What's going on?
Yeah, exactly. But I would only lean toward. I could only look towards the over in this situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll have to keep an eye on it for sure. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited. I'm excited to watch this one, and yeah, hopefully if we go with the Knicks and the over, if we do decide to press the issue, hopefully we catch both.
Yeah, exactly. Man, I don't know if you're have any other shows, Matt. This is I think so. We dropped the Lakers. I think you're gonna be on the money line. I like the
Yes.
team total, but I can't talk anyone off that money line either. I might just join you with it, to be
Yeah.
honest,
Double
because
up.
I
Why
could still
not?
get plus money. And then when LeBron gets in, it's possibly they're gonna switch sides here. So
100%.
I would say if you like the money line, take that now.
Yeah.
The other piece is lean towards the over.
Mhm.
The Brooklyn and New York game for lean towards the over. I was on the show earlier on the triple double. I did talk about the Magic and the Bulls under. Actually gave that out last night at 227. It is 224 now.
Wow.
224. I wrote in my analysis was the lowest I'd go to take the under,
Yeah.
but that's another game that I took. Um, Other than that, man, I 100% like want you to come back on the show
Of course, man. Yeah.
any other time.
Yeah.
But I know you're a busy guy, so we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Definitely appreciate the Q&A section earlier too. I think you dropped a lot of great nuggets. Hopefully you helped a lot of people here.
Yeah.
This is the end of the show. I want to make sure you drop anything for the viewers here. You got any shows coming up? Anything to promote as well?
Yeah. I mean, if you guys do want to follow them, it's at DeadPresPicks on Twitter. I do a show every morning called The Morning Edge that streams live on Twitter and YouTube. So we run that every day live at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. So if you guys do want to check that out, and then do a bunch of articles every day and content there. But no, thank you so much, Ronald, for having me on. I had a lot of fun talking over basketball with you, and I respect your work a lot. So I'll be around. Yeah, we'll definitely have to do it again sometime.
Yeah, I know we're also talking with AC about it too, to do a three-way show.
That'd be great.
Well. Yeah, maybe we can do that in the next coming weeks as well.
Yeah,
man, like I said, dude, I really appreciate you coming on here. For those who are new, obviously my Twitter down there, Youcapper Sports. I think one thing that I always end with this, Matt, is whether you fade us or follow us on this show, it is really on you guys to make that call. You guys are pushing the buttons. It's your decision. One thing that I always want to talk about is accountability, and that's why I say it. So whether you fade us or follow us, guys, it's on you to make that call. Good luck with all your action. Till next time, peace.